my Talk to the Pro series. Today I have physical therapist Peter Piatasik with me here. Local Winter Haven physical therapist, TPI certified level 3 to talk golf and how to make your golf swing easier on your body.
Just wanted to thank Bob for having me aboard, just to share some really good insight and information with you guys. I've been practicing for about 20 years, plenty of certifications, but probably the most golf-specific ones are through TPI, which is the title is Performance Institute, where I was able to be conferred upon as a level 3 medical practitioner with them. Kind of just looks at the overall golfer and how to safely and not only improve their game, but how to safely play the game and continue in terms of longevity, which is something I believe we're going to talk about here today.
Yeah, I think as a Stack and Tilt Network instructor, you've been involved with that almost for the same length of time as you're one of my students. Stack and Tilt to me has opened up my eyes in terms of lining up the joints, getting the body to work in a certain order to help the swing function better. And I think that on some level there's a certain segment of the golfing populace that believes that you can get too old and can't learn to do different movement patterns because you're not physically able to. And I think that that's something I've learned, and we've had these discussions before, and it's kind of interesting. I'd like to have your take on that.
In terms of longevity and playing golf, to think you can't play golf, I think is a misnomer. I think with the appropriate people on your team, with the appropriate instruction, you definitely can continue to play golf well into your later years and excel, not just plateau. Yes, there will be the need to take care of those that are on a pro circuit, so to speak, but the vast majority of people are, they just want to continue playing the game. They love playing. It's they got the bug, so to speak, or have been playing forever, and just want to be able to continue and love being outside.
Yeah, I think one of the things that strikes me as I watch, thousands of golfers come off the golf course every day, and you touched on a word that hit me kind of there, is longevity, and not just in terms of the number of years they play, but the number of the holes they're physically able to play. And I think there's this misnomer that as the populace gets older or the weather gets hot, that it's just because of the weather that reduces your ability to play more golf. And I think that if you do the movement patterns in a more efficient manner and move through these steps in a progressive manner, you end up being able to enjoy the game, and you don't feel like somebody's hit you over the head with a sledgehammer when you come off 18. You're ready, you could possibly go play more golf, take a little short break and go do that. That probably leads us to, where would you start with somebody?
I do have an additional certification in Selective Functional Movement Assessment. It literally has 10 top tier tests, takes about 3 minutes. You identify which those movement patterns are dysfunctional or people have problems with. And it can range all the way from your average recreational golfer who's getting after it on Saturday, all the way up to the best golfers that you see on TV. And don't go thinking that these guys that you see on TV have no issues. There are plenty of players out there at the elite level that are playing on tour that are always managing some kind of symptoms, I should say. Anywhere from roughly 30 to 40% in the middle of a PGA Tour season, players are fighting or taking care of or addressing some sort of symptoms, whether it be their big toe, whether it be their neck, their shoulder, their low back, which predominantly dominates or is at the top of the list for most involvement from a physical standpoint. So,
yeah, I think that one of the things that drew me to Stack and Tilt was the the 10 words. It's a simplified system. It shows process, and I think that one of the ones that seemed to alleviate some of my pressure in my back. I've been blessed that I haven't had any real back issues, but the straightening of the right knee to kind of release that tension of the restricted right knee and grinding my upper body around it. And I know we've had discussions about that's one of those things that kind of releases the tension, so to speak, in that area where your upper torso is grinding against your lower hip girdle as it goes around. I think that's something you can probably add some insight to our folks, that a lot of people think of the straightening of the right knee as a fault in golf. We in the stack and tilt world know that if you look at an array of pictures of 100 golfers, even PGA Tour players, they all extend their knee to some degree.
Yeah, so a couple things with that, with stack and tilt, the straightening of the right knee or the trail leg, it's all about management, I suppose, or controlling the range of motion. And most people usually run into problems when it's done in excess. The reason why you straighten that right knee in stack and tilt is to improve the rotation while you're keeping your weight forward. And then the other thing is when you're going into your follow through, we talk at the very end about tucking your hips, which is extremely important, that you're having actually activation of, you hear all the time, activating your glutes, which takes the pelvis and rotates it back. So you don't hinge with your low back. And that is, when that happens in excess, again, there's that word, then that's when people start running into problems.
Yeah, on tour, a latest example of that is somebody who struggled with the lack of knee flex is Jason Day. Very gifted golfer, very family man, nice guy, and to my opinion, he doesn't straighten his knee enough, so he's had all kinds of lower back issues that have really caused him some time in his career. Andy Plummer, the founder of the co-founder of Stack and Tilt, would always say, when we're teaching, no one lesson is the same. I think that leads you in. We have a system, we don't have a model. We're trying to put people into using all facets of the system to, make people better, make them enjoy the game, and allow them to play longer and healthier if possible. I think that should be a goal for all of us.
Yeah, one of the things that when we worked with Andy was the concept of taking components of the stack and tilt. You don't have to follow every single thing to a T. These are recommendations which hopefully you can find in your swing to improve your game, whether you're at position 6 or whether you're at the moment of truth or what your setup is like. But it helps though when you have a system and some organization up in your noggin as to what you're trying to accomplish when you're swinging the club.
And I think that a lot of times I tell people, I show those array of photos during my lessons, and I show them to look at the commonalities of all the great players and how they look very, very similar. They do similar characteristics. Maybe not too much of this or too much of that, but they all have kind of the same generalized look. And they may come from 1,000 different instructors, but all the best players in the world do all of the components that are in the stack and tilt system.
Something called the kinematic sequence, and how things go as you start your downswing to your finish. And that's exactly what happens is with tour players is they all have a just uncanny way of being able to go through this kinematic sequence and make it very efficient.
Sequencing of the movements is probably the key. It's why somebody who is a tour player can hit shots that look like a 15 handicap, and then sometimes a 15 handicap can pull off a tour player-like shot. And I think that we use our system in stack and tilt to try to explain why those things happen. And I think that's a value in the system that sometimes gets overlooked when we try to plug people into these, what we consider a model, even though stack and tilt is a system. Well, Peter, thank you.
Absolutely.
We won't shake hands because we're still in the COVID-19 stuff.
Absolutely.
But we'll see you on the links.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bob. I
You got it.
appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.